Facebook. It's Sarah McLeodry from Synergy Behavior Solutions here in Portland, Oregon. Today we're going to talk about luring. Luring sometimes gets a bad rap in the positive dog training community. Hi, Facebook. It's Sarah McLeodry showing up from Synergy Behavior Solutions here in Portland, Oregon. We're having a gorgeous day today. Welcome. Today we're going to talk about luring. Maybe a little while ago, luring got a really bad rap in the positive dog training community. And I think a lot of people felt that luring was not truly teaching the animal what to do. And they felt like they were just trying to get the dogs to do, or cats or whatever animal, to follow the food. And if you're just following something, you're not always learning it deep down in a way that you want. So that becomes part of the problem, I think, that why luring got a bad rap. Also, too, it's super fun to shape behaviors, and I love shaping behaviors. It's one of my favorite things to do. But I really started talking the other day with a friend about how luring can be problematic or versus shaping and vice versa, because I was actually working on an exercise with Lindy here, my toller, and I was wanting her to circle a set of cones that I'd put together. She couldn't walk in between them. And I was trying to shape it, and we were really getting stuck, and she was getting very, very frustrated. And then she started hitting the cones and doing all this stuff, and I changed my criteria, and I changed my treat value, and I did all these things. And then finally I took a break, put it away because she was getting too frustrated, which was making me frustrated. And so I decided to come back with a target stick and train it with a target stick. And literally in one repetition, she's like, oh, you want me to circle these cones? No big deal. The target stick gave me the ability to communicate with her what I was looking for. And we were able to get the behavior very quickly. Is target stick a lure? I think in many cases a target stick is a lure because she was following it to do something. I was able to fade that lure, but it was getting her to do something. I think of luring, my definition of luring is to help reduce the learner's frustration. And what can I do to make this learning situation fun for my learner and fun for me, because then we do more training and really have an engagement in the process. I'm not super concerned about that they're just following treats. One person once described it as if you always follow your GPS somewhere, you don't learn how to get there. And I don't think that's true. I use my GPS to make sure I don't get lost, make sure I don't waste gas, waste time, things like that. But I can learn from that lure of the GPS on how to get somewhere. But we need to be open to these possibilities and really make sure that our learners' happiness and engagement and comfort level is paramount in all of our training. So that said, I want to talk about what different types of lures there are. So Lindy has a topple right now, and you can totally use the topple as a lure. There's no more peanut butter in it. But if I was to use this topple without peanut butter in it, she's not going to follow that lure because it's not worth it to her. A lure is a promise that a treat is coming, but you cannot negate that promise. And so she's like, oh, okay, I can follow that lure. I put a treat in there, and she's going to work on getting it, and we're going to move her around. I love using things like topples as a lure in a veterinary setting, things like that, when I'm doing body handling, because it gives the dog something to focus on. Sticking the cookie in there is not a great lure in this particular situation for her because she's getting a little bit of it, but not enough. Remember, I said a lure is a promise that treats are coming, and if they don't get a treat, then it's not the promise. So she just got a little bit out of there, so that was great. So that's one way you can use a lure. You also want to think about the types of food you use for a lure. So this is a freeze-dried liver treat. And this is a good lure, kind of a good lure, as she almost takes my hand off to follow, because she can get a little bit of nibbles on there, but she has to nibble pretty hard in order to get those nibbles off. So maybe not the best food out to get the lure to use for luring. But a lot of dogs, you have to find that gentle balance between the food that they can nibble and follow the lure versus the food that they will grab in a bite and be done with it. So this is a sticky treat, a little squishy treat. That's a little bit better of a lure for her. I love for luring, I love cheese sticks. They're great lures. I do love the peanut butter cup, which I have over here. So these are the Jif Natural Peanut Butter Cups. These are great. I always have these in my training bag for vet handling, things like that. So versus the Topple, this is a much better lure because she's able to stay engaged with that lure. I also like luring for when I'm doing really precision situations and I want to make sure that my dog is doing exactly what I want and I don't want them learning bad habits. So that may be in fitness activities, it may be in competition obedience activities, things like that. So I'm going to stand up here and remove her. I'm going to trade her for her because that'd be rude just to take away your peanut butter. Trade ya. And we're going to work on how can we use that lure. Oh, I got peanut butter all over me. That never happens to dog trainers at all. All right, so we're going to use a lure to work on her leg weaves. She has this actually down pretty well, but I could do this behavior with some shaping. I could do it with hand targeting. Is that hand target a lure? Maybe. But right now I'm going to do it with food in both hands, and we're going to use this as a lure. She's like, give me the cookies now. So I want her to go through my leg, and once she goes completely through, I'm going to click and treat. So like I said, she knows this behavior pretty well. I'm going to switch actually over to my box clicker because that's a little bit louder. All right. And so I've got, once again, I'm going to get treats in both hands. So treat in both hands. I'm going to let her see that lure come through. Good job. Come back through and then give her that lure. All right, so that's one way of luring, is using it to get tricks. The other thing is if I want to work on our competition obedience healing, I'm going to work on luring her into position. I have a very specific position that I want if I was to do competition obedience. I actually don't do competition obedience anymore. I used to, and she hasn't really done a lot of this. But I want to make sure that she's doing it correctly, so I'm going to have her follow that lure. Get in. Good. And feed that lure. Nice. And I'm already fading that lure. Good job. So luring is eating food. It is not following food. Following food is not reinforcing. So we really need to think about that. The other thing I like to think about for luring is, I'm going to give a shout out to Eva and Emily in Sweden, my friends. They are amazing, and they have a concept that they call transport, which is when you need to get your dog from point A to point B, but you don't really need them to think about getting from point A to point B. And I also call this the cookie magnet. And so I need to get her, let's say I need to get her from back here to the beginning of this bench, and maybe there's a scary dog over there barking at her. I don't want her to think about it. There's not a scary dog. There is a dog barking in my house, Mr. Bueller. And so I want her to just follow that cookie to get to point A to point B. I want her to learn how to follow it forward, follow it backwards. I have peanut butter all over my leg. Every dog trainer's issue. Good. And this is a skill. Being able to follow the cookie magnet is not, your dog does not automatically come with it, and you do not automatically come with it. It is a skill you need to practice because you need to figure out how much of that treat I need to give at any given time, what can happen. I see a lot of dogs become very leery of being lured because too often their people are luring them and showing them the cookie and doing all these things, but they're not feeding them, and the dog loses faith in that the treat is going to come. Like I said, luring is a promise that cookies are coming. Viewing food is not reinforcing, eating food is. And so what can we do to make sure that they're getting enough reinforcement? Definitely your type of lure. So another great lure to use if you need to do a transport lure, or if you have a reactive dog, is a squeezy tube. We love the Go tubes. Those are awesome. The other option can be, oh, Lindy just bumped the monitor. The other options are the baby food squeezy tubes. I love those. The peanut butter in the little cups. So those are great for transport lures. But I definitely need different types of food for different types of lures when I'm training. And so making sure that you have a variety of treats. So squishy treats, hard treats, nibbly treats like cheese sticks, things like that. We're going to see if she wants to have a chewy. So even something like this, a chewy, this has actually, it's a fish skin with a little bit of peanut butter. So that's a little bit of a lure, a little too much crunch going on there. Good job. So we're going to put that in her topple to let her just enjoy that. And so what other types of lures can we use? We just need to be thinking about it. Sometimes people talk about the reason why they don't like to lure is they don't want to have to worry about fading the lure. And I like to think about what can we do with that lure from the get-go that sets us up to already have a hand signal for our dog? Or is it a situation, do I really need to fade the food? If I'm doing a transport lure, I don't need to fade that food. I can always have my dog following the food. There's a lot of times in body handling and husbandry that I will use a food lure and I won't fade that lure. But you need to think about it. So if I wanted to lure just a basic sit, you know, do I need to worry about fading that hand signal or not? How can I make that happen where I build in the hand signal automatically with how I use that lure? And that's something to think about for sure. So I hope it gives you some ideas to think about how we want to use lures. Back in the day, like I said, it was not it was looked down upon in the training world. There used to be this great cartoon with a dog in court that says, "I was lured." And that definitely happens. Definitely, it can be a problem, but don't be afraid of it. Where our goal is to look for how can we have our learners set up for success and how can we have them having fun in the training process. So if you have any questions about how to use a lure, how do you need to fade it, do you want to fade it, all of those kinds of things, then please feel free to leave them in the comments. And we look forward to speaking with you soon and on our Facebook Live in the near future. Have a great day.